Ha ha ha! Yes, welcome. Give me just a second here. I'm popping out the chat. Okay. Bing! I'm over here. Ooh. Was it the Spartan kick from Assassin's Creed? The newest one? I forget what the name of the newest one is. My brain is going. So, Todd, if I remember correctly, you want me to make you FabiElf. Like Fabio was an elf. Is that pretty much what you're talking about here? Lag. Okay. I'm assuming this means he doesn't wear armor. The second thing is, does he carry a weapon? So, no armor. Does he carry a weapon? The Farrah Fawcett hair, yeah. Shadowblade, meaning, what would it look like on a miniature? Would it look like a weapon, or would it look like he's just got a weird, jagged shape of energy? Also, would it be more like Fabio's hair or more like Farrah Fawcett's hair? There is a difference. Hello? Is it more like Fabio or more like Farrah Fawcett? There is a difference. More like Fabio's hair, okay. So basically what you're telling me is this. Pretty much. I could have sworn I did not have it set to... Okay. And hello! Yes, Mr. Deppergent. It seems that very often on Sundays I'll have two broadcasts, because Sundays is when I do sculpts for my patrons like Todd, right there, right above you over here on the chat, or down there if you're watching it full screen. What in the... Let me close that before I get started. Okay, here we go. Bye-bye to Fabio. I don't need you anymore. Alright, so. Pirate shirt, the poofy, baggy sleeves. What sort of boots? That's important. See, here's the deal. Cavalier boots, you can have one cuffed up, where it looks like a bucket boot above the knee, and one cuffed down, where it's got that cuff below the knee. A nice full booty. Really? Also, are his boots more decorated than his belt? Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by making his sword. So you say it's a kind of a flamey shaped blade. The big question here then is, will this blade, what would it be equivalent to? A short sword, a long sword, a rapier, a cutlass? What type of blade is it? You know, what style of shape is this thing? Because, I mean, the Sun Sword from Thundar the Barbarian, the hilt was the hilt of a dagger. And the blade was a short sword blade. Okay, longsword. You realize that's a hand-and-a-half weapon. That's a sword that you hold like this, like, you know, and you can do it with one hand, but real world, the handle's down to here. And the blade, the total length of the blade is as much as 48 inches long. A blade like this with a sharper point on a half again longer handle. This is called my burglar prevention tool. Because yes, I actually do know the proper techniques with a 2.5, 3 pound Viking broadsword. I just want to make sure that is what you're thinking. If you're thinking of... Yeah. Okay, then what you're thinking of is an arming sword. D&D doesn't have an arming sword for some stupid reason, but think of it as, take a long sword, but take away the versatile feature. You can only use one hand, because there's no room for two hands. But by the same token, there are people who have used dual arming swords. So, anyway. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to bring us into 3D Studio Max. You'll get to see me making a prop. Well, not completely. I won't be making it entirely from scratch. I'll be piecing it together from 2 existing props. So, 3D Studio Max. What I'm doing here, you can do in almost any other polygon modeler, although I don't know the names of the tools you would use in, for example, Blender. No, furball. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the 3D model of one of my previous props. To be exact, we're going to take the basic no, I don't want the Celtic. Oh, don't want the Celtic styled. Import. 1, 2. Alright, let's start with the arming sword. That's just a very basic arming sword. We can decorate it a bit more when we go to sculpting. And what I do now is I'm going to select the blade and detach it. I'm then going to go ahead and make this like bright color so I can see it a bit easier. And this will get frozen. That is just for the sake of seeing a little cage of the size that I need. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import from my old spells the firebolt from the right hand. And I'm going to move the center to about here. I'm also going to, I'm going to adjust the positioning as well. Bringing it okay, now local. Bring that out. Z, and I need to center this a bit. There. Now, once again, we're going to a local, and we're going to shrink this to fit the vague shape of... Okay, now I'm going to hide frozen objects. The end result is, this is what your sword will look like. What do you think of that? Hmm? I can do that. It would look... I'd have to make this a little bit bigger then. The flame part. So we're going to just grow. There. I need to move it a little this way. You realize this will make it somewhat more difficult to paint. I'm also going to have to control points. Grab this and bring it in to there. And then bring it out a little bit just so that it's... There we go. Just trying to shape it so it has that look. What do you think of that? Ah, wrong daggum button. Let me go ahead and collapse this. With the blade or without the blade. I'll be honest, when it comes to painting, this would be easier, but having the blade, it still has its own plus look. Okay, Kim likes without. Mr. Dappertemp, what do you like? Okay, well, all we have to do now is select both of them and export. File, export selected, and this goes to, this is props, wavefront OBJ. It's easier this way. And we're going to call this Todd's Flame Sword. By the way, just to double check, you said the character's name is Tammy or Tommy? T-O-M-I. Okay, so now we're going over to Daz Studio. And loading in our basic human male figure. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load in a prop into his right hand and then deleting it. The reason is that prop automatically poses a hand. Now we're going to file, import, and once again we're going to props, and there it is, Todd's Flame Sword. Then we take it and we parent it to the right hand and make the sword invisible. Now, you said he's an elf, but he's also kind of muscular. But he's not as muscular as Fabio. So is he as skinny as this? Tomy. Oh, like Tomy, the toy company that got bought out by Takara in the 90s. Tomy, that used to make a whole bunch of toys back in the 80s. Oh, he's a half-elf. Okay. Well, that's actually simple. 50%, yeah! And then I can exaggerate his ears in, if you want me to, in ZBrush. Why did I hit the wrong for her? Okay. What I can do to make it give him a little bit less of the money is parameter settings. Let's drop this down to a minimum of 50%. Oh, no. Parameter settings, minimum of -50, not 100. We don't want Uber Elf. That's a bit too much. There. Just a little bit less than ordinary human. How's that? He's a twink. Okay, well, another thing to make him a little bit more effeminate is to X-scale the shoulders and the chest. There. Something like that. I'm gonna have to. We'll worry about the butt later, but something like this. Excellent. Okay. Now we know he's not. The shirt is going to be separate. The pants are going to be. He's not going to have to worry about anything down there, except for the sculpting. But he is going to need one boot cuff. So the way we're going to handle this, we're going to load in the boot cuffs, but which side will have the cuff, the left or the right? The right will have the cuff. So we take the left and make it invisible. Now we're also probably going to be dragging it up closer to the knee, because that's where it would be, is up closer to the knee. But for right now, this is good. We're going to go ahead and hide the boot cuffs in general. See, now when we make them visible and invisible, only that one goes. Now we come up with the pose. Do you know what kind of pose you want for him? We knew he's going to have his sword, and he's going to probably be... Oof. Baby boy. Hey, baby boy. What are you doing? What are you doing? I have such feral cats. Ah, when I'm on the microphone, no, I'll play with you all you want when I get off. Okay, so he's gonna have a shield in his well, guess what? Let me tilt this back. I happen to have shield as a prop. Spell shield as a prop. Okay, is he leaning into the shield or leaning away from it? That's a very big question. And if this is printed on a resin printer, you know, it can be printed out of something like this, resin like this, and you paint everything except the spell so that the spell is this glowing clear. Leaning into the shield is more heroic. More, I'm stopping this with all I have. Leaning away is, not the face, not the face. So which is he? Is he, I'm stopping this with all I have? Or, not the face, not the face. Okay. I'm actually not going to take your word for that. For the simple reason that, you know, I'll take what your niece says more accurately. So, Kim, would he be, I am heroically stopping this blast? Or, not the face, not the face? The reason why I say this is because Dris de Werden, in the books, is this unstoppable dervish of dual swords that faces dragons and demons and... Whereas, according to everyone who was ever in the game where R. Salvatore played the character of Dris, it was more like, I'm standing on a mountaintop, all heroic, tundra yetis, ah! So yeah. How dare you singe my hair! Okay, now the last thing we need to add, and before we actually do this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load in female long hair. And I'm going to maneuver it into position. And then this is going to get sculpted into his Fabio hair. Okay. That's going to get sculpted into his Fabio hair. Alright, now we're going to hide the spell shield and the hair. So, now, like I said, occasionally when I do poses, I need to go ahead and stand up and assume the pose, so it'd be more like that. So, the hips would be tilting forward and down and slightly twisted. Okay. So, we're going to pin the feet. Pin translation and pin rotation. Right up here. This little thingy. We're going to pin this one too. We're going to end up rotating it later. Now we're going to grab the hip. And with this selected, this gives us both an up and down and a rotational. We're going to drop the hips a bit. Ew, ick, that's bad. Lean it forward. The reason that's bad is because it's making the knees bend sideways. That's never ever a good thing to do. Knees don't bend sideways. Tilt like that. Bend hips forward. Now what we're going to do is we're going to unpin all. We're going to unside to side. We're going to unside to side there, and then we're going to make sure that this has no side to side. We're going to come back to it in a second for the foot. We're going to completely and utterly erase all bends on the leg. On this leg, because we want an actual, working leg instead of a mangled, oh my god, what has happened here? Okay, so we're going to grab this thigh. And we're going to bend it forward and out to the side a little. Bend here so that we can see where we need to twist. We're going to bend the toe a little. Alright, we need to twist this a bit there. And now we're going to the front view so we can start messing with the feet. Yay! Now let's select both feet. Alright, now this one, the first thing that we need to do is we need to side it. And make it flat. There we go. Now let's hit Control D. Okay, this toe is not bent enough. We need to bend this foot down a bit actually, and then bend the toe up, because we need to make as much of the toe flat on the ground as possible. And now we're going to bend the leg back. Oh, a little bit more there. Okay. Now we're going to mess with the abdomen. The abdomen is actually going to be twisting this ever so slightly and bending a little bit forward, but then it's going to side to side a lot over here. And now the chest, which is going to side the opposite direction and bend back. The reason being is that this way everything is at a significantly different angle. Actually, we're going to need to undo some of that because that's just a bit too much. Now we're going to bring this shoulder forward. We're going to twist it a little bit that way, and then we're going to bend up. And then side to side it this way, and we can bend it down a little bit. And what we get is, oh, it's still too much. There. Now, one thing I've noticed about the spell shield, and that's, it is unfortunately not centered. Front view frame on the spell shield. There. Top view on the spell shield. Yeah. And now let's bring this up here. That is the end point. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to move it to here, and then align node. Now, when I Z-rotate it, it's moving that way. When I Y-rotate, there we go. I assume that we want kind of a... Well, this is not quite vertical, but it's close. Vertical would be more like that. There we go. That's a vertical shield. But we're going to have to move ever so slightly like that to put it in the center of... Let's move it more like this so we can unbend the hand a little. Okay, then we're gonna tweak the fingers here in a second, but next up is the right hand. We're gonna move the shoulder back a little and down. We're gonna again twist forward. Then we're gonna bend this, twist. Make the flame sword visible so we can see what it's doing. And we're going to bend the... here. So for right now, without a modifier to the head, this is what we're getting. We haven't modified the position of the head and neck yet. So what do you think of that? I printed it before on a figure on FDM. I printed this figure in FDM. I don't have it, I gave it to my player. But it does print. So the shield isn't as bad as it looks. I mean, this is with a warped bottom from that crappy gray resin. And it's still... So yeah. And the problem with making it more open, it would break in a heartbeat. You can make one yourself. After I do the full making props from scratch thing Tuesday, you'll be able to see how to make one yourself. But, yeah. And I just had an idea. Let's take this. Front view. right view. Alright. Perspective view. We're going to zero-rotate it. No, that's right, because it twists. Okay. I was going to do this. But it has the same direction of flame because it's a spiral. Okay. Anyway. Big deal. Whatever. Now the head. We're going to tilt the head to the side a little, neck aside a little. We're going to twist. We're going to bend the head back so he can have it look like, I am better than you. Ha ha ha. Heroic chin. +2 to armor class from heroic chin. I forgot to parent the hair to the head. So, what we're going to do instead is we're going to take the hair. I'm going to take the hip. Copy selected items. Along here. And we're going to paste to selected items. Then, we're going to X-translate it a little bit more this way. Y-rote. Or twist. Like that. And side to side like that. And then we're going to take the chest. Then we're going to take the neck and bend it a bit. And Y-scale it. And then I'm going to take it by here. And bring it into position. There we go. That's too much. Fair. I'm gonna have to do what I didn't want to do. Alright, first of all, edit figure 0 figure pose. And then fit long hair basic to jointed base male, accept. And you see why I didn't want to do it. That scrubs it up. Let's see what happens if we make the neck a little bit longer. And then let's go to its races of elf and zeros. Now let's try dragging the head up. Doesn't work. Head. There. I'm going to have to do a lot of sculpting on it. But yeah, that's the basics. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead I'm going to hide the shield, sword, boot cuff, and hair. And now that's going to be his body. Oh wait, before I do all of this, you know the base types. This is actually one of the few I would suggest the wooden plank base, because he's either in a bar or on board ship as a swashbuckler. So you could have that, or cobblestones, or fancy tiles, or grass, or rock, or how the heck did he get into a spaceship? You know. What do you think? Well, I get some soda. Alrighty, and before I go to do that, I just wanted to show you that on resin at least. I know I've got one up here. Aha. On resin at least. Oh, come on, stupid camera. Let's do this. The planks come out pretty darn good in resin. Yeah. Wine bottles are pretty simple. It would take just a moment to make them. But that'll be in just a minute, because first thing before I do that, I need to go ahead and import bases, planks, accept. And now I select those planks, I drag it down until he's standing on them. He needs to go over a bit more so that he's centered more, or so that no, he needs to have that foot almost barely off the base just for balance purposes. Now, the next question is, he also needs to be a bit there. You always want your figure mostly behind the center spot of the base, because when you stand them on the center spot, it looks weird. However, the next question is, do we want to spin the wheel of random positioning? Or do you prefer it to be like exactly parallel or perpendicular to his feet? You know. Oh yeah, that's right. Derp. Sorry. Bing. Random positioning of the planks. Or do you want them parallel or perpendicular to his feet? Or just like a specific angle you know? Random is good. Okay, so we take it and just let's turn it until we stop. Okay, that doesn't look random, so there we go. That's good enough. Okay, and that's where his. Actually, we need to turn it just a little bit like that, just to get it away, those nails away from his foot. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to hide the planks. We're going to file, export, and this is going to be Tommy Bod. Accept. Hide him. Oh wait, no, we can't hide. We can't do that yet because we still have to tweak his fingers to fit the spell shield. Bend. Because we want it to be part of his hand as much as possible. There. The more fused, the better. Now let's hide the spell shield. There we go. Now, actually, one last thing. I'm going to assume that you want the mouth closed, either closed or fully open, and one brow up. You know, pulling a The Rock expression. Or one mouth open yelling, "Leave my hair alone!" Expression is always important. Now remember, I'm going to be exaggerating his jaw when we get him into ZBrush, making that head look a bit more Fabi-esque. Mouth closed. Okay. And one eyebrow, this eyebrow just kind of down. And this eyebrow twisted out just a little and then up. Makes him look dangerous, despite being a little Twinkie. The smirk will be done in post, unless I want to. Let's see if what happens if we Z-rotate. No. That's good for a lower snarl, but not for a smirk. Okay. So, let's go ahead and file, export, Tomibod, save, yes, accept. We hide that, and we make the sword and shield visible. File, export, Tomi props, accept. Make them invisible. Boot cuffs and hair. The hair is going to be going to need a lot of work, but we're going to call this Tomi Conf. It's short for conformers. Basically, they're figures that follow another figure, so therefore they conform to its pose. And then file, export, Tomi base. Pardon me while I scratch my shoulder. Accept. Now, before we go to ZBrush, we're going back to 3D Studio Max. We're going to import that base. Tomi base. And we're going to import the body. This is just so that we have an idea of size and where to put these things. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a bottle. We're going to put it off to one side. And the way we're going to make the bottle is we're going to make a cylinder. We're going to give it 2 cap segments, 10 sides, and 4 height segments. And make it a bit large. But again, it's better to make things a little bit larger and then make it easier for them to... Okay, now we're going to convert it to an edible poly. And we're zooming in on this sucker. We are then selecting all of these rows and bring them closer to each other. Bringing this up here. And this one back down. We're then selecting all of these and making them smaller. Let's go ahead and grab this and drag it down. We're then going to select these polygons and we're going to extrude them out a little. Not that far. We also need them in a full circle. Just a little. Just enough. And then we're going to select the top ones. We're going to shrink them just a bit. Now, I'm going to select these top polygons and deselect the ones on the bottom and make them a bit bigger. And they're just going to kind of sink in just a little. Twice. We're now going to select those two and these two, but not that one or that one. And we're going to loop. And what that's going to do is that's going to select our rings here. I'm now going to chamfer them. Not that far. Just a bit to kind of round off the edges just a little. We are then going to select this one, loop, and chamfer. It's going to round them off a little bit more, but I'm also going to make it more precise. Okay. Now, if I hit, oh, I need to do one last thing. I need to select that one, loop, chamfer, and make it smaller than that. Now if I hit mesh smooth, no. I need to lower this here to about here. Then select here, I hit connect, and I shrink it just a little. Bring it up. Bring this up just a little. Now when I do it, I have some handles I can work with. I want it to look like a wine bottle, not a beer bottle. There we go. That's a bit better. And we're gonna hit it with the second. Actually, we need to do one other thing. That's a bit too much. It's because it needs to be printable easily. Okay, there we go. Collapse all. And now in scale it looks right, but really and truly it won't look right on the miniature, so we're going to make it a little bit bigger. And we're going to move it over onto his base. We're going to put the one that's standing up back over here. Very clearly on the board, but not directly in the way of his feet. And then we're going to take another one. I'm going to hold shift, and as I drag it, it's going to create a copy. I'm going to rotate it to one side. Now I'm going to hit F12, which pulls up. It says 55, we're going to make that 90. And then I'm going to move it up so that it's on the ground. It needs to move just a little bit more. It needs to be on its side. Turn that off. And then we're going to move it to about here. And we're going to rotate it like that. And we're going to lower it just a little bit so that there won't be problems with, yeah, there we go. So there is our wine bottles. How are those doing you? Okay, so I'm going to delete these. So choose these and export them out into the Patreon Minis new Tomy bottles. And we've taken almost an entire hour on this aspect of the figure. We haven't even started on the sculpt yet. Well, time to start on the sculpt. I'm going to bring in the body first. Beep. And as usual, before we get started with anything else, we're going to tweak anything that needs tweaking, like this part of the crotch needs to get smoothed out quite a lot, because human crotches don't do that. Nor do elven crotches. I don't want to hear anything. And then we're going to deal with the buttocks in a sculptural way, so we're going to worry about that in a minute. And his underarms are going to be dealt with. Okay. Move. I'm going to grab this part. Yeah, it goes. There we go. A nice smirk. And then we're going to grab the corners of the jaw and pull them out a bit to make him a bit more human-like and less elven. You see what I'm saying there? Okay. Now, we're going to smooth out this area here. It's going to end up being baggy, so it doesn't really matter as much. But we want to make sure we kind of smooth out these shoulders, because again, they'll be underneath a shirt. Now, I use Inflate and Mr. Handy Dandy Wacom tablet for more control. And his partner, the stylus. And we're going to use Inflate to give us a bit more buttock region, because you said you wanted him to have a nice full buttocks. We're going to start off by making it exaggeratedly huge. You know, enough that would make Kim Kardashian say, "Dude, daggum, that's just like too much." And then we're going to very gently, lightly smooth it back down, because he is wearing pants, however tight they may be. And then we're going to have to deal most of this after we have fused it into a single solid chunk. So let's go to geometry and subdivide it a couple times until it's around there. Delete lower. And just to make sure we get everything else in here, let's go ahead and import his props. Those are going to hide. I'm going to append his conformers. And Now I'm going to change to a hugely larger brush. I'm going to then go to move, and I'm going to move it up more towards near the top of the knee. Now I got to shrink it some because the back of this leg is too high. And then grab the bottom and kind of drag it down. Because, you know, gravity! Next thing we're going to do is, he doesn't have much of this, so I'm going to shrink this down a good bit. And then using move it behind his ear, there, and in quite a bit. Well, I'll move it in just a second. Behind his hair. Hide the body. Zoom in. Turn this more into that. We can deal with it in just a minute. And now turn him back on. And we are going to make the mouse a lot bigger. Bring it in. And we're going to deal with sculpting it into shape later. So we're going to hide those. Notice that since I have it selected, when I clicked hide, it doesn't hide until I move off of it. And now append, import the base, and then we're going to append, import the bottles. The bottles we're going to subdivide a couple more times until it looks mostly smooth. The base, we're going to do the same thing, because there. And then we're going to merge the base down onto the bottles. So it's all one thingy. And then hide the base. The next thing we're going to do is almost entirely on him. And that involves that Dynamesh. Dynamesh at 768. Again, I'm only using these numbers for this size and this figure that I've made, because I know how it behaves at this resolution. Now we're going in, and with a smaller brush, first things first, smooth out all of this. Then we have to make him have apparently a little supermodel tushy. Okay, the corner of the mouth up a little bit. Okay, that's not too hard. Even now. Okay, now we're going to use inflate again, but we're going to make it really large and not very intense. It's like in painting when you want a weak, watered down paint. because you don't want to go too far with the coverage. Same thing applies here with the butt. And that's a bit too much of a butt. Yeah, that's a bit too much of a butt, wouldn't you say? Yeah, that's a bit more Baryshnikov-y. Now the thing is, he'll also need... I can't believe I'm asking this. Does he wear a cod piece over top of his trousers like was fashioned back then, or not? Are we talking like, think... Best way to imagine it is think David Bowie in Labyrinth. Does he have an area? No codpiece. Okay. Well, the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to smooth out this part of the abdomen just because it'll make it easier when making his pants and belt. Okay. Now, the next thing we do, we shrink the mouse a little bit. No, we're going to make it grow. Because what we're going to do is we're going to mark off the top of the trousers. I'm assuming he wears low-ride trousers. Like, well, down to here. Coming down kind of low, so it'll be easier to blend it all in. I know it'll look like a skirt at first, but... And then shrink this. And then... Okay, and then we're now going to go to... Extract 0.02, yeah, because this is pants, not armor. Accept, draw, and then Dynamesh at 256. Dynamesh, make this bigger, and with a full force, smooth it in to the mesh. Okay. Let's make it on move it to move just because. I hate it when it does that, but yeah. And in we go. By the way, for those who haven't seen it, Kim there has done a seriously nice little female pirate. I'm assuming this is a party member of Tomy. Would that be an accurate statement? Grab this and pull it in. Okay, then what we're going to do now, we're going to merge it down. And then geometry, we're going to Dynamesh again. And then come around and smooth out the seam. Okay. Alright, now the next thing we need to do is we need to make him a belt. I would actually recommend, instead of a belt, a sash. What do you think of the idea of a piratey sash instead of a belt? Because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to hide everything except for this and make the sash out of this. The reason is I kind of forgot to what we do is we take it this way and then down that way. I kind of forgot to leave a spot for a sash or belt. And then extract 0.03, extract, accept, draw, delete, and then make the body, regular body, visible, and move it up a bit. And then Dynamesh it at 128 and subdivide it a little, and then yeah, sash. Oh, wrong. Nah. Jareth the Goblin King. Okay, I need to grab this with the move tool because that's sticking up too much. It's looking more diapery. And to bring it down. We don't want him to have a diaper. And then smooth out here. Okay, now we'll grab the sash, and we're going to pull it out a little. Just a little. And we're going to leave much of this for towards the end when it's wrinkle time. Aha, I'm going to make this bigger and drag it down a little. Yeah, there we go. Frame out. no, out. Then we're going to subdivide it a little lower. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start. Yeah, that's what we needed. We're going to get some soda, and then we're going to give him his collar and the front sides of his shirt. I'm assuming that they may not even be buttoned into the sash. But before we do this, we need to clear out, well, hide the hand. Control Shift click hides things. Smooth out that part of the chest. Just because, yeah. Okay, now we're going to start off by drawing a line like that. That's one side. And then going down like that. And it's going to come around behind the back of the neck and meet up right there. We're then going to add on a bit more oomph to the sides, because we're going to need to be able to blend them in and pull out the actual collar. Okay, now the question is, what style of collar? Just no collar, just a little bit of collar? We are going to end up having pulled this kind of out away from the chest by the time this is all said and done, by the way. And then let's bring this down here. And Control Shift E to make the hands visible again. While we're at it, let's go ahead and make the cuff. You see, he'll have an actual cuff. No, not like that. With that style shirt, you have a cuff. And I'm trying to get this arm straight, and then cuff. And we're going to extract that out. Accept, draw, draw. And then we go to geometry and we dynamesh it at 128. And before we divide, we are not going to do any smoothing on the inside on the cuff at all, because it's going to be blended in with the fact that the sleeve behind it is poofy. Okay, this is kind of irritating hearing a show I can't stand in the background while I'm watching, while I'm working, and that show is Bar Rescue. So many of these people are idiots, and so many of them aren't, but are made to look like idiots through selective editing, so that the star of the show seems smarter and have more common sense than anyone since God. You know what I mean? That's kind of irritating. And we're going to kind of blend these in a little bit closer down here, because we want it to make it look like he's kind of baggy out. So, collar or no collar? I've forgotten. I missed it. But again, the question is, what kind of collar? I've got to do one thing. I've got to select that and split unmasked parts. Now, geometry subdivided a couple times. Lower. Merge down. And then go back in and dynamesh it again. Now I can smooth this in. And let's hide this hand again. If you can look and find a picture of the style of collar you want, we should be getting pretty good. At least you're not playing Flabio. I know a guy who made a dwarf rogue who was 450 pounds at 4'4", with a dex of, I think it was 5, but a charisma of 18. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let me take a look. Okay, very simple collar. All we have to worry about is the fact that that particular type of shirt can't come all the way down. Alright, we're gonna do one last thing real quick. Grab here and kind of drag it down. Okay, now all we got to do, you realize that as wide open as it is, the collar won't even start until here. And the way it's going to work is we're going to simply draw around the edge here. Whoop. And then we're going to kind of come from here out to here. We're going to do something here. And then now what's going to happen when I make this extracted Make sure I got it just as wide on this side. No, I don't. I need a little bit wider over here. So I need to come out. I'm going to extract it now. Accept. Draw. Grab him, draw to get rid of the masked areas, and now we're going to Dynamesh it, but at 256 because we want that kind of sharp look to the collar. And now with move selected, I'm going to grab up here and move this up and this down. There we go. Now we're going to divide it a couple times. Grab down here and pull it into. So there's his collar. A lot of his collar is going to be covered up by his hair. And I'm going to just go ahead and merge it down. Oh yeah. Merge down. Take the cuffs, and subdivide them a little. And now we need to make his other boot. And the other boot will be over here. And the way we're going to handle it is we're going to pull it down here. And if this boot is the same height as the other one, it'll be here. Okay, now we're going to extract that at 0.03. Extract, accept, draw, draw, and Dynamesh at 256. And smooth. And this is going to be where we're going to mend in or blend in our boot. A lot of smoothing to do on the underside of the boot cuff. And then we're going to drag them down and in. Oh. Drag it down and in. Okay, frame out and divide it a couple times and merge down. Now let's go ahead and Dynamesh. Move in, shrink this down, and we're going to smooth out the seam for the boot. Now we've got a lot of detailing left to do on these boots, but yeah. Frame out. Now let me go ahead and get some more soda. Yeah, soda. I love this thing. One of the best things I ever designed. I use it daily. Or almost daily. If I don't have cans, I've got bottles, and I don't use it when I got bottles. Oh, well. And that's without his weapon and shield. And I've still got to adjust his hair. But before we do his hair, we're going to finish up his sash, because he needs a knot on his sash. Draw. But this, we're going to Dynamesh at 64. And then we're going to polish it. There we go, because we want it more of a knot than a... And then we're going to use the slash tool to draw in just some random directional lines to make it look vaguely, almost sort of kind of like a knot. So we're going to draw here. We're going to come down and around, down like that, and up over here. And then from down here, we're going to come up over here. And then we're going to subdivide it a few more times. Lower. We have our knot, and now we need the two poofs coming out. So we're going to use what's called a snake hook for that. What a snake hook does is you grab a chunk of geometry and you drag it, and it warps it out to follow that chunk of geometry. Oh. I'm going to grab this chunk and come down. Now that doesn't look like a lot. That looks way too thin to print, right? Well, that's what Dynamesh is for, but this time we're going to Dynamesh at 512. And now we're going to use the inflate tool. Now we need to subdivide it a couple times before we do that. We're going to grab down here. Oh, nope. I'm going to grab here. And smooth it out. We're going to have to move that. Okay. And then inflate. Oh. Here. Now, let's Dynamesh at 256. Subdivide, but before we use the subdivisions, we're going to smooth this out. We're also going to grab that whole area here and pull it out from the body just to make it not as weirdly shaped. We're going to grab this part and pull it in towards the body to give it some more adhesion. Then smooth up here, especially at the tip. Smooth here. And what's going to happen is we're going to do it one more Dynamesh at 512. And now, I did that because we have a tear here. Boy. Polish. There we go. That gets rid of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the standard brush at a really low intensity and no lazy mouse on subtract. And we're going to, okay, not quite that low. We're going to kind of draw in a negative fold into it. And over here as well. Kind of like a rabbit ear. Then we're going back to our slash tool and we're going to redraw some of these right here and around here. We're then going to draw from here to there. We're going to hit it a couple times just to make sure that it looks like the one is coming out from in front of the other. Now we're going back to inflate. I'm going to kind of polish out that area. So, whoa, too big. Drop that intensity quite a bit. I'm going to kind of pull this out just with a few gentle strokes. And down here. Frame out. They might be a little difficult on the printing, but if they do well, they will make it look a lot better. Okay, give me just a second here. Anyway, let's go ahead and go back to ZBrush since I'm done with that now. Okay. So now the next thing we need to do is we've got all of the pieces in play. And it's now 7:40, so hold on just a second here. Okay. Now, back into ZBrush we are. We'll deal with the hair last. We're gonna, because we need to go ahead and make our wrinkles on the sash first. And what we need to do first, this is gonna be almost entirely with the slash tool at about a 10. And we're gonna start off smoothing out the top. Geometry. Okay. I'm going to draw on. No. Draw on wrinkles both on top and on bottom. On bottom and on top. Now the top is about in scale an inch or so below, but it's going to come on in. Then we're going to drop the size of our brush and we're going to make another one coming out here. And then another one coming out down here. Then we're going back to subtract and make it a little bit more intense. And we're going to come in and we're going to do a little bit under here and a lot under here. Just enough to give it that look of it's got wrinkles. Especially the more we get to the knot. Okay, now almost all of the rest of the wrinkles are on his side of things, on his body itself. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to make this mouse bigger. We're going to inflate. And we're going to inflate the pants just right at the knee, just like we did at the previous figure. The one that I sculpted about a couple hours ago. We are not going to make it very much larger around here. Now we're going to standard and shrinking this to about there. Now about there. And now we're going to start off with the major wrinkles. So yeah, it's at there, there, and there. Come up here, over, down, and over, because there's zigzags. In the folded here. Let's hide the, and then we're going to just draw a couple lines across the butt and smooth them flat. And then one up here, one coming down that way, and then one coming underneath, and then smoothing out the ends as before, and the bottoms. And then we're going to zigzag across the top with a little bit of light. Then we go back to our slash. Let's start this one here with a add 9 zigzag across the top. And then up, up, there. And you want to make the tops of your wrinkles on about the bottom third as gravity flies. Yes, gravity flies. How else do you think it travels from the sun to the earth to keep us in place? It flies here. It flies coached though, so you know, it gets made fun of by all the other cosmic forces. And then we're going to draw a couple wrinkly bits here and there just to satisfy this. Now this particular wrinkle we're going to do a really deep under because we need to give him a crotch. Oops. I was hitting the wrong key. Yeah, there we go. Note to self. Shift activates the smoothing. Caps lock does nothing. All I was doing was driving that wrinkle of the crotch so far out the back of its hip that people thought he was a dragonborn. And let's come down here. Oh Lord, there's a Diet Coke commercial I just overheard trying to compare drinking Diet Coke with running a marathon. Okay, there we go. It's a little baggy, so let's smooth it out just a bit. That's a bit too much on the, especially up here around the tops of the legs. Yeah, there we go. That'll do it. Once again, we're going to just let it have the implications of these wrinkles by smoothing them out mostly. Okay. And then same thing over here. And especially down here, because that wrinkle's what's really giving us a lot of baggy look. Okay. And then these wrinkles here are causing issues. Okay. Frame. Now, here comes the hard part. Well, first of all, I need to wrinkle in, or not wrinkle, but smooth out in the inner forearm. I'm going to go ahead and, with inflate, make the forearms huge, because it's supposed to be. A little bit on the upper portions of the arms and forearms, and a lot below, because it's, whoa, that was way too big. A lot below, because it's going to be baggy and hanging down. And then coming down, and we're gonna smooth out where it's meeting the cuff, because that cuff needs to have a seam. And there we go. The problem is wrinkles that would happen on tight leather pants don't carry over well to miniatures. And making something large enough to be visible makes them not look like tight leather pants. So I'm going to go ahead and subdivide it one more time. Not Dynamesh, divide. So that I can do some further detail on the sleeves. Now as we go to slash, we're going to start with the subtract on the on the sleeves. I'm just going to kind of draw in some, no, make it bigger. Wrinkles coming down and out from where the, not enough. It needs to be about a, yeah. There we go. That's what we need. We're going to come back and do some other ones there in a second. But we need to now we're going to make it smaller, and we're going to leave it the same depth, but we're going to basically come in between these wrinkles here, because what we're going to be doing with them is, this is the kind of, it's not deep enough. Yeah, let's make it deeper. I'm going to come in here and come in like it's closer to where the seams are for the actual cuff here. And it's going to be the same thing down here. We're going to come up a couple times like that, and then, oh, not that one. And then we're going to smooth out the bottoms. And I'm muttering to myself, yay. Just call me Deku. I'm irritated that they've said, yes, we're doing another season, but we don't have a date for it, so just wait. Because we need Overhaul. And if you don't know who Overhaul is, you don't know My Hero Academia yet, at least not the manga side. And that's the guy with the Plague Doctor mask we met at the end of last season. Or of this season. Alright, now we're going to go to add. We're going to make it bigger and a lot smaller, or a lot weaker. And we're going to just kind of draw on some of these wrinkles just to pull them out and to draw on a couple extra aspects to them. And then just like down here, coming up across. Okay, frame out. And we definitely need to fix that. Yeah. Now, I know how we can make this look more like tight pants and less like disco pants. Go big. Go weak, and go sub. And just shape this closer to the shape of legs. Like here. This will help us. Oh! There. That ends up making it look more like tight pants. Oh God. So what about changing the character names too? Would he encounter Volo Hump Gedarm? Yeah. Now we're gonna need to add in a little bit of wrinkly on the boots, but they're gonna be a lot smaller and thinner wrinkles. So, for example, we're going to draw a. Whoop! No, we got sub, not add. Right. Okay. He's almost looking like Elvis. Elvis meets Fabio. Well, he is kind of elfish. Okay, now let's go to the hair. And we're going to subdivide it once. Unfortunately, the hair is sharing us a subtool with this. So, alright, delete lower. And we're going to zoom out. And we're going to select the entirety of that. And we're going to make a new subtool by splitting masked parts. Now we can frame the hair. And with geometry, subdivide it one more time. And then dynamesh it at 256. And then we're going to grab, with move, we're going to grab the center of the hair here and kind of pull it out a little, because we're going to need to make Fabio Farah hair. Fabio. Mom was watching one of those real crime TV shows a few months back, and they were talking about the death of a fashion designer named Fabio. That has nothing to do with Fabio. And yeah, I got confused. Well, it's a 1 for the gold piece, 2 for the card. Anyway. So I need to pull up that picture of Fabio. Okay. There is Fabio. And that tells us what we have to do to his hair. Well, unfortunately, being half-elf, we can't fully cover his hair the way he did there. But we can grab this and we can move it back. Which lets us poof and floofy that part of the hair. And we need to move the part. So we're going to, what we're going to do is we're going to grab this part here. We're going to drag it out. That forms his big old forehead curl. And this part, and drag it back. So does anyone remember when Fabio got his nose broken by a goose on a roller coaster? Okay, so now we're going to inflate, and we're going to inflate this area right here, because he's got this big poof right here. That's a little bit too much there. See, I never liked Fabio because he was, until he started doing the Old Spice replacement man your man could smell like bit, and showed he didn't have to always take himself seriously. I thought he was the biggest piece of ego on the face of the planet. And I didn't like him. I knew too many people that were like that. Whoop. Okay, there we go. And come down like that. Because he has kind of little curlicues, tufts at the bottom of his hair. And now I'm going to grab the move tool. Make it big. Because I gotta, and turn on transparency so I can see the bottom. I gotta pull this hair up and above the collar. Just enough to make it clearly above the collar. Okay. Turn off invisibility. Go back to slash. Now, did he actually break his nose, or did he just bloody it? I forget. I know there were a lot of women who read a lot of really cheesy romance novels who were crying their eyes out at the thought that his nose got broken. Alright, now I'm going to add in some hard-edged versions just to kind of draw a sharper look to the hair. And this will come in and come down. Now remember, if this is your first time here tonight, go ahead and speak up. This might be a sculpt for Todd, but you know, I want everyone to you know, at least participate and joke around. This is also a social thing. So especially when we make fun of Fabio and other celebrities that take themselves far too seriously. So how's that for the hair? While I'm waiting on you to refer to the hair, I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to subdivide the weapon and shield a bit so that you can see it. Here we go. What are you thinking of it so far? Is there anything you can think of to modify it?
And hello, Long. We got bottles on the base. His sword, his shadow sword, casting shield, and with his shirt bare down to his belt. Yes, I will. I was just wanting to know if there was anything else before I did the hands and finished everything up. I may have missed the hands in a few episodes early on, but I haven't missed them in quite some time. And like I've said, the hands are what makes the figure look real. It looks, with Vienna sausage fingers, it looks fake. But with hands, it looks right. Just a little bit of, add on the knuckles. Draw them. Imagine the shape of the tendons as forming a parallelogram. And then smooth out the bottom. Maybe hit one a couple times to get a repeat to smooth them out better. Yeah, there we go. Then look down on the top of the finger so we can isolate where the knuckles really should go. And then bing, 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 bing. Now the reason I did not do it with the female hands on the Dragonborn, the female hands for some reason bend a lot better than the male hands, and they don't need it. They bend properly to begin with. I need to increase this part of this thumb just so that, yeah. There we go. Hands, they actually come out pretty right. And then slash sub 11. And that's that hand. And now the other hand, since it's straight, it's not as massively necessary, but we still want to add on those details. So we go to the inflate, go to knuckles, just a little bit lighter than we were before, and draw on those tendons. Smooth it, and then 1, 2, just to clear it up. And then we're just going to draw on the knuckles just slightly. Oh. Just enough to make them mostly visible. And I do believe with the tablet. A buckle across the one thigh. It's a little late. Doing a buckle or strap around the thigh really should have been done before we did the wrinkles. Because number one, it would have really changed the wrinkles a lot. And number two, it's going to have the shape of the wrinkles in the shape of the strap if we put it on now. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to merge down all of these. And we're going to zoom out a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out till it's just about a couple inches on screen. and we'll be able to see how the details will probably look when printed. Because even on, and let's frame and zoom back out a little bit, and we're going to Dynamesh them. And we're going to wait until it tells us it's done, and it'll probably be going from 6.4 megapixels probably to close to about about 2.2. That's my guess, is 2.2 megapixels. 2.394. I was off by 10%. That's quite a lot from my point of view. So it's now a single solid manifold surface. Single solid surface. And so we're going to open up the Z plugin and the decimation master. As before, we want this about 50k points or 100k triangles. And let's see how well it does. We want that orange line to go all the way across the top, up above my head. If it stops before it hits 100% and goes to calculating or computing, it's flubbed. Well, looks like it's working. Oh, one thing to think about when making smiles or anything else that causes the mouth to go up, the cheek also goes up and it pushes up on the underside of that eye. Don't forget that if you go to make an expression with a smile or a grin or a smirk or anything like that. And we have from 2.394 megapolys, million polygons, we go down to 100,145. And again, it's almost impossible to see any major difference. And at the printing levels, you won't see any difference. But if we go much lower than that, you will, because this is just enough lines and polygons to define the shape. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and export as Tommy Swashbuckler figure. Oh, my caps lock's on. Why didn't anybody tell my caps lock's on? Tommy Swashbuck figure. Actually, he kind of also resembles the original series Starbuck, the smirk. But yeah, that was our FabiElf. Whee! Okay, it is now 8:20. I've already gone 20 minutes over today, but that was a long sculpt today. And of course, most of that was from, trying to get the pose just right and stuff. And I also had to go in and fiddle with that hair. And I don't mean sculpting the hair, I mean making that hair wig fit. Go figure. In an hour or so. Well, it'll probably take a little bit longer than that for me to get everything for both you and for Long to, send them to you and email them to you. If you can, go ahead and in the Discord, which for anyone who's watching later on, the Discord is linked down below. Go ahead and private message me your email address. Okay? Yeah, I saw he also painted it and ended up turning it into Drax. Anyway, Long and Todd, send me your email addresses on the Discord in a private message, not in public, because you don't want people hounding you. Well, thank you, Kim. And I'm hoping that see, I got quite a bit more work to do. What you don't notice, what he didn't really show you is that the magma dragonborn have more of a Egyptian, ancient civilization, southern, North Africa, southern Middle East is hot culture to them. The axes and the shields have hieroglyphics on them. Things like that. You are welcome, Todd. Please, y'all, stick around. By the way, I'm going to tell you now that I've already decided I'm going to make 2 props on Tuesday. The first one is going to be a more cliche Arabian Nights tulwar scimitar thing that never actually existed in history and is a creation of Hollywood in the 1930s. And a big old sci-fi gun, a blaster. And I'm going to be adding them to the zip for the sculpting files for those who are a higher tier patron. But it's going to have a new URL because there are people who have left the Patreon. So I'll be sending the URL to the new files Wednesday to everyone who's still a $25 patron. So I will be seeing y'all later. And let me go ahead and hit this refresh so I can make sure to have no lag while I'm logging. Lagging while I'm logging, going bye-bye. I'm crazy. Only because I can be. Alright. Now, I'm going to go ahead and raise my hand. And thank you, TJ. And I'm going to start that countdown. And that's going to be a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1, and a lag. Have a wonderful week.